certainly knew about North Carolina Central University and City of Durham and its involvement in the civil rights movement and the segregation issues. I thought the right home for it, where would be more natural or appropriate than the North Carolina Central.
North Carolina Central University School of Law getting this collection is incredibly significant. The interest in the Supreme Court as an institution, the interest in the Supreme Court with respect to its members, the justices, cases that are going before the court, the public is becoming more and more aware and interested in the court. We need to make sure that we stay in contact and in touch with the Supreme Court because it has such a great impact on our day-to-day lives.
History has pretty much forgot Stanley Reed. The Justice and Brown versus Board of Education encouraged me to do a biography of Justice Reed. He'd been neglected by all the historians up till then, so I wrote the Reed biography. That's how it all came about, and that's how I ended up with the two collections, and one of the stuff from Brown versus Board of Education, and the other one of books, biographies of justices, or books written by justices. My last year of law school at Yale, and the dean came up to me one day and he told me, "Jack, I'm going to recommend you to Associate Justice Stanley Foreman Reed for a clerkship next year." Along came early part of 1953. I got a letter from Justice Reed, learned that he wanted me to be his chief clerk for the following year.
Oftentimes the law clerk will draft opinions for the judges, will do initial research, will be a sounding board for the judge.
It was a good relationship right from the start. I never quite knew whether he selected me because of my academic record, which was fairly good. I was a little older than most of the law clerks, and that I was and had 2 tours of duty in the Army and had a wife, a couple kids. I was still not dry behind the ears yet, but had all of the enthusiasm of youth. On September 8th, not too long after I'd been there, Justice Vinson died in his sleep. As Eisenhower appointed Earl Warren, I learned the slow evolution at the Supreme Court, even before Earl Warren arrived, with respect to racial discrimination, and somewhat knew that the main thing on the agenda was the school segregation cases. So what I thought was going to be a routine and interesting experience ended up being a very exceptional experience and a chance to participate in history. Those cases had been working their way up to the Supreme Court. Thurgood Marshall and the group that he represented had been carefully planning a campaign to take on Plessy versus Ferguson.
The two big clauses out of the 14th Amendment, which provides us with a number of our rights, stem from the Equal Protection Clause and the Due Process Clause. The Equal Protection Clause provides that everyone is entitled to equal protection under the law. The argument was that separating school children based on race was not consistent with the values of our country and certainly inconsistent with the 14th Amendment, specifically the Equal Protection Clause. The justices, they knew the world was watching.
There always were very strict rules on privacy at the Supreme Court. Law clerks weren't supposed to talk to anybody outside. Justice had selected me to be working with him on his work on the case. He somewhat restricted me from even telling my fellow clerk what was going on. There was still very, very strong sentiment in the South in favor of segregation. Thurgood Marshall, of course, had good channels to the Supreme Court. He got the idea that Reed had hired me to help him write his dissent. The unanimity was so important to the reception in the country. That would have been a lot worse if it hadn't been unanimous. He never subscribed to the view that obviously had to be at the basis of the segregation, that there was an inherent inferiority of the one race against the other. He thought that was a lot of nonsense. The 50th anniversary, where I got to meet the Brown sisters. They're very charming. My writings have been aimed at just setting the record straight. I'm frankly very proud of my participation. I think I was very, very lucky to be put in a place to be a part of history at a very important time.
The mission that we have here at North Carolina Central seems to certainly pair with importance of Brown. So I think it makes a lot of sense that he would choose this institution to give his gift to. The Fassett collection will definitely be supportive of the scholarship of the faculty here. Also in our constitutional law classes, in order to really understand these constitutional cases, oftentimes you have to know what's going on behind the scenes, what's going on politically at the time when the court is rendering this decision. Having these books at our fingertips is going to be incredibly valuable in facilitating our scholarship efforts.